Hello, hello.
Hello. Hi.
Always, of course, looking like skin on fire, just looking amazing.
Oh, barely. Sorry for the technical difficulties. So I've been saying this for I
Yeah,
cannot tell you how long that Instagram needs a green room, and I have been just saying it on
they
every
heard you.
live, and like I
They
haven't
heard
done a
you,
live in
obviously.
maybe. No, that's what I'm saying. Because every time
Yeah,
I said I hope
yeah,
Instagram hears me. Please make a green room. So this is the first time, and for so
yeah.
long I haven't done a live in maybe a month. So this must have happened in the last one
Give or
time.
take, but it's the good news is that
Really?
it's so helpful just to like get right.
It is.
Yeah.
I had no
Well,
idea. Now I know.
it's called the
They
practice room,
call it the
exactly.
practice
So
room.
let's get right into it.
Whatever.
Okay, so I did like a quick
Let's do
intro
it.
before I brought you on, but I mean, who doesn't know Trisha from Brown Girl Magazine, especially in the States? I think that of you. I think you're just really such a glue when it comes to the South Asian community, broadly speaking, in the States and Canada. What I want to talk about today and focus on is something that I think is near and dear to both you and me, which is our first angel investment and our first angel investment both as founder and as investor. So which is, and when you and I say this, like, what a long way we've come since that first conversation, which you'll have to tell me. I think it was 2018 or 2019. Pre-pandemic, everything's a blur. So I think it was 2018 or 2019. 2019? Okay.
2019. Because 2018, I couldn't have even imagined. But
Which
2019,
in
I
and of
was warming
itself
up
might
to
be
it. So
actually a
yeah,
great place to start, because I really, for when I think of kind of who would gain value from this conversation, to me, it's the person who is a founder, is starting a brand, has heard that, wait, you can raise capital, or that's a fancy way of basically saying you can ask for money from others to invest in your company. And it might be something now, like a now, or it might be down the road. But I think hearing your journey and mine of how we came together and came to be, I think would be really useful. And maybe, as with everything, when you look in the rear view, what did we learn? What do we do differently? And kind of where have we gone from here? And either some information related to that I'm privy to as well, that I think is important for you to share. So let's start. Let's take it back. Take it back to 2019, and tell us where Brown Girl Magazine was in 2019. Where were things at?
For sure. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure, and now I'm going to go check back.
I kept the email.
You called me like, oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's like February 2019. Pretty sure it was like early year, and so yeah. So quick background: Brown Girl Magazine has been around for a while, like more than a decade. And sometimes I hesitate to say it because then there's so much context and nuance of, okay, you've been around for more than a decade. What happened? But a lot happened, and so the original founder, and I say this all the time, like, she truly was an influencer of her time, and I was so happy to see she actually recently wrote a little bit about her own journey on LinkedIn. She hasn't done that, so it was really nice to see how she sees her journey at Brown Girl. So anyways, she gave Brown Girl the best shot that she could, and I say it all the time that Brown Girl Magazine was early in the times, right? There was no representation. There was no platform for brown girls, and now there's thankfully so many, and that was the goal. But she had given it a best shot, but as a side hustle. And at the end of the day, if you really want to pursue something, it needs to be more than a side hustle. If you want it to be sustainable, if you want it to be scalable. You could do sustainable as a side hustle. Let me take that back. You can definitely create something sustainable as a side hustle, but to scale it, you may need to take that.
Side hustle is maybe where you start. Just to see if you actually care about it, if you actually want to put time into it, if actually everybody else cares about it. Yeah. And to your point, to scale, I agree.
Yeah. Don't plunge into it unless you feel that it can be sustainable, and then on scalability. So anyways, I had been doing Brown Girl as well as a side hustle. I was managing editor at the time in 2018, and and the founder was ready to shut down its doors and move on with her life, rightfully so, and completely understood it. And so I kind of swooped in at the right time. I say it all the time, like, Brown Girl was truly one of those like divine timing moments where if I didn't buy in then, I would have never had the opportunity to buy in later. And I saw it as a gold mine. I still see it as a gold mine.
Yeah.
Thankfully, many people do as well. And so it was just very much on the whim that I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe I can do this full time. I had at that point been working at a media company for a few years, and it was just a crazy light bulb moment. But when you called me in 2019, I was paying back the original two founders.
Yeah.
And that part was tough, you know, because all the revenue that Brown Girl was making, it was essentially going into their
so
payment.
when you say their payment, you bought their shares out. Was there a structure where there were shares and each of you guys was a shareholder and you were buying their equity out of the company?
Yeah.
Okay. So you became 100%
literally what it was. Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Almost. Yeah. They kept a little bit, which is definitely deserving. So they kept a little tiny piece, both of them.
You were the majority
definitely like more than majority shareholder came. But yeah, it did take me exactly 2 years to pay them back, and I basically paid them back every like 5 to 6 months, and I was on a very strict payment plan, and so it was tough. Like Brown Girl wasn't making any revenue before that. We were making very little, but not significant enough.
So was it just you
risk,
at that time?
So
was it just you at that time, or how? What was there a team?
Of course, freelancers. Brown Girl has thankfully always been in a good place with freelancers, and even now we literally keep our lights on because of the dedicated freelance staff that we have. But it was just me, and of course my dad and my husband. Thank God, those two were the people that were like, you got to do this. Like, you don't have a choice now. Go figure out a way to make the money. And that's what I did. I did a ton of brand campaigns, did a ton of events, and somehow every 6 months I did manage to pay them off. And I, like, every time I made a payment, I was like, I can't believe I just made this payment. Like, I pretty much like buried every dollar that I could.
You're revenue generating, whatever that amount is, you're revenue generating at this point in 2019. You're a team of you and freelancers, and you're in a situation where you have debt in the company in order to become a majority shareholder. Was there a thought at that time, hey, I need to pay down this debt quickly, or I just need to pay down this debt? Should I look at outside capital? Had you at that point heard of angel investing? Was there exposure to that?
Definitely exposure, because my husband was raising money at the same exact time for his legal tech company. He was already accepted into 500 startups at that time, so he was actually back and forth from San Francisco to New York because he was, at the incubator. So I was definitely exposed to it, but I never thought that I could use capital money to pay down that debt. Like, those things didn't click for me, and I also don't feel like that I would have even been comfortable, because it took me so long to even take that first check, because I just felt it was such an uncomfortable way of running a business or starting a business. Like, I feel like I come from such a brick and mortar small business mindset, like what you make is and what your revenue is.
Linear
and
relationship.
That's the story. Like, for sure. And I think growing up in a household where my dad had his own business and did not raise capital, he has a small boutique CPA firm, right? Like, his business is profitable. He doesn't understand what it means to burn cash, other people's cash. It's not something he knows. So I pretty much had heard his advice my entire life. I never spoke to like new age founders. So of course my husband was the first person to like warm me up to the idea. And I did speak to 1 or 2 angel investors, and you know those stories. But I think in those beginning days, those couple of angel investors really wanted to come in Shark Tank style, rightfully so, and take, a good chunk of the company back. And I couldn't stomach that at that point, because I had already spent so much time and energy buying the equity that I couldn't just give it back.
Because, a lot of times the purpose of these conversations is to try and through sharing of knowledge, sharing of pains and gains, like what can we save a founder who's also starting out and, heard about this in the exact same boat that you were circa 2019. What would you suggest as things to do and things not to do in the early stages of, maybe you're at the place, a founder's at the place that they've heard of angel investing and that's all. What would you suggest now looking back?
Yeah, I think there's two sides to it. One, I think that if you do have some sort of financial flexibility and you're able to bootstrap the business, and that means like take no salary or take a very little salary, if you're in a financially secure position where you can just focus on building the company's revenue without diluting your capital, without diluting your own shares and your own stock, I'd say go for it. And that's the position that I was in, and I was grateful to be in that position, and always will say that the only reason I was able to take that plunge and take that financial risk is because I was in a financially safe place to do it. And I was married, and there's no other way to look at it, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. But if you're not in that same opportunity, for sure you should go raise pre-revenue. There's no reason why you shouldn't. And if I could turn back the time, I probably would have raised pre-revenue too, because it would have just helped expedite my growth. And so I think our growth has been completely slowed down by so many years because I don't have a full-time team. And that's where I'm at now, is we've definitely had very good growth, but we've done it without a full-time team. So just imagine the growth we can have with a full-time team. So if there's any founders out there who have some knowledge, and I think now the space is so different, and just in the past 4 or 5 years, angel investing has become so much more of like the everyday conversation, and there's so much access to more micro funds and more diverse angel founders who are willing to write checks. Exactly. There just is more, there's not that there wasn't cash on the table before. There's more accessible cash now on the table, still with caveat and nuances. So I think it's very 50-50
and I think one of the conversations that's a very current conversation. Yes, it's become angel investing is now a phrase a term that you see a lot of people attribute to something that they didn't know that's what they were doing when they were writing a check for their cousins, brothers, nephews, uncle. That is what they were doing. They were angel investing. I think the gender disparity between and there's other founders that we've done IG Lives with. I can think of Simran from MyFo who talked about this, where the gender disparity is in the fact that at pre-revenue, so call it an idea, call it early stages of product ideation, community building, that women have a more difficult time raising capital and generating any kind of investment at that stage without plenty of traction. Now, that's something I'm curious if you've heard, because you have such a strong community of other founders you talk to, that whole pre-revenue stage of raising, is that something that you've heard and seen where it's like, hey, wait a minute, how come I'm having such a difficult time? I'm more than an idea. I have a community, but I'm pre-revenue. Why is that? Is that something that you've also heard of as well, like that difference between what men can raise and women can raise?
Sure. Yeah, not only have I heard of it, but I've experienced it. I mean, the first time I started raising capital, even though I had proof of concept for years and years, not just like a couple of years, right? Like Brown Girl has thankfully become somewhat of a pillar in the space and in the community. And we had revenue at the time that I did start raising. And even then, the disparity is so real. And I say it all the time. Like, I say this to my husband all the time. I'm like, I wish you could just raise for me and I'll run the company, because when people hear him talk, it's just such a different way, even though it's my company. And this just happened a few weeks ago where we were both sitting down and chatting away with an investor. And an investor asked him what he thinks the future is for Brown Girl. But I know the future is for Brown Girl. And I swooped in right away. And I was like, no, I actually know
I'm the CEO.
The future. Like, it happens all the time. And you know what? Like, men, I don't want to gender it, but they're just oblivious to it. And when we left the conversation, my husband didn't even realize that happened. He goes, oh, really? Like, no, it wasn't like that. I was like, dude, I'm telling you, like, I'm the one who should tell you the future of the company. Like, you're here to help support all the work I've done, and once I tell you about the future, you can then egg it on and say, that's a great idea. But I should be the one to tell the future, not you, And so it happens all the time, and it's happened as recently as just a little while ago. And so, there's two coins to it. You can totally take offense to it and never want to speak to that angel investor again, or you can take it as, like, this is something that we have to continue to work through, and I'm so determined to continue to work through it. And I did my job that day by swooping in really just like graciously and being like, you know what, I've given it so much thought. I've spent so many years trying to figure out what the future is. And also that's one of the big reasons why I didn't raise, because I didn't know what the future was. I didn't see a real path for Brown Girl in the beginning days, because no one cared about a South Asian company for South Asian people. It just wasn't big enough. It wasn't scalable enough. Like, people didn't see a reason for it.
Which is wild, especially in today's day and age, where everything South Asian and South Asian diaspora is hot. Yeah. Isn't that funny?
I mean, everywhere I go, everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is the best time for you. And
it's been the best time. Yeah.
I'm 10 years in. I'm 10 years in. Trust me, I'm waiting for this time. Like, you tell, like, even last night, I had a few folks at an event that I was at, and they were just like, you need to just do this and do this and do this. And I was like,
I know all the things, which is maybe why I'm seeking outside capital. So let's fast forward then. So now that's a good kind of framework of like where you were at that time and kind of where your headspace was at. And then I emailed you, which at the time, I actually don't know how, I thought at the time that that's uncommon, because I remember emailing you and just kind of like flipping the table now, kind of where I was at. I just knew that I wanted to in some way support South Asian women and the South Asian community, specifically women, because that was something I've always been passionate about. And then I was also following and engaging with your community on Brown Girl Mag, which was already thriving. We're talking 2019, and it was already quite engaged and thriving. And I never quite put the two together in the same way, that here is supporting South Asian women, and here is Brown Girl Mag doing exactly that. How do those two meet? For me, I think I'd mentioned this to you in other conversations as well, the dot connecting was just by access to information out there, podcasts, and listen to Naval Ravikant's podcast about angel investing. But even then, I remember emailing you and wanting to talk to you about a podcast. And that conversation, in which you had covered a lot more about what Brown Girl Angel is building, was when the two started to kind of spark in my head of like, well, I want to help you build what you're building. So that was the initial conversation, but from that point on, and help me with the memory here, I think it was a year before you and I actually signed the paperwork formally and said, okay, let's do this. And
it was more than a year, because your check came.
Somebody remembers the month. Oh my God. Here's your first. I mean, it was my well, thank
first
you.
check.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm also really good at dates, so I'll give that to myself too. But my friend Simone is here. She's gonna say yes. Trisha remembers every date possible. So no, I mean, it was a good, year and a half journey, and I think that really helped me, because it really allowed me to like work through the beginning days of Brown Girl with you, and it was so transparent, it was so candid, like you knew all the flaws, you knew my flaws at that point probably, and like, and you knew that there's potential here though, right? And I think that was the beauty of it, that even though you got to know me on such a deep level, you knew that there was real potential here. And I think that that's the kind of relationship I want to build with my angel investors, and I don't want to just raise capital just for the sake of raising capital, because I don't need
is that advice you give to other founders, that it is important to build a relationship with the investor, no matter, like, even if that takes a year? Is that advice you give looking back?
I think that it's advice that I still want to stand by, but it's hard. It's really hard. And there was a question up above that said, do you have to schmooze with investors? And, for me, like, I think it's the same way as building a trust and a friendship and a relationship, and you court them, and there are some really amazing angel investors out there right now that I just want to get to know, like, because if they get to know me, they're not going to be worried about the deck. They're going to know that Trisha has this, she's focused on what she's building, and but they need to know me outside of the deck. And that's the relationship I want to build. So it may take a year, and I think that's okay. But in this given day, you do have to move faster, and I need to press on that for myself, that I can't take a year to build a relationship. And
well, I'll add on to that by saying at the stage that you were in, which was in debt, and also generally as an investor, you want to know that you're investing in the founder. You're not, and especially when it's not a product and it's a community, a lot of it, and I know that was a conversation we kept having back and forth about, is Trisha the face of Brown Girl, or is Brown Girl Magazine, is Brown Girl Magazine standalone? And one of the things from an investor's point of view, at least, is, well, I need to know that this founder can handle feedback, is open to the conversation, because it's something so close to them that it's their baby, especially when this is their first angel investment, and that they can pivot, because there's going to be ideas that will come, go, fail, succeed, and can they keep with it, and are they committed to this, or is this is a check being written for a side hustle that's maybe going to be uninteresting to them in 2 years, and very broad strokes. So that relationship formation, I think, especially for a first check, is really important. But I will also add to that and say, as part of my own learning journey of now having made other investments since, that some checks, you write the check, you get to know the founder a bit, and you don't really have a relationship with the founder. It is, you're a check writer, and waiting to hear the updates, and that's really the end of it. And some investors, that's all they want, especially as they're building their portfolio. Let's say, 10, 15, 20 companies, they're looking to write the check and say, let me know how it's going every quarter. So to your point, that investor might not be interested in like the dance of a relationship for a year. So I think, is it fair to say then it's getting to maybe just ask that question? What kind of an investor do you want to be? Because like you said earlier, you're looking to interview and find out if this investor is going to be a problem or a fit and add value, versus I just want your money.
Yeah, and I've seen that balance, and I'm in such a better mindset about it now. But before, I just felt so uneasy taking someone's check and someone's money. Like, it was such a burden on my shoulders. I was like, I can't take their 10K even. It just felt so wrong. And I just needed to really warm up to the idea. I was like, how can I take their money? They don't even know who I am, But in this first round, I do have a good handful of people that just truly wrote a check because a friend told them to do. And that part was really cool. And I was so touched by that their friend gave them the word and they wrote the check, and they don't know me. And that's okay too. And I need to just be better at being okay with knowing that some angel investors are not going to know the ins and outs of everything. And I think I need a better balance of that anyways. Because now my cap table will have a good 25, 30 investors, of angel investors mostly. And so there's no way I can build that deep relationship that I've built with you. But so now I have a better mindset of it. So I would say to any early stage founders that are looking to raise, I think have your core group for sure. Have 3, have 4, have 5 angel investors that are your day ones. You can call them, and hopefully they'll be the ones that you call if, God forbid, you're running out of money too. So, and
I mean, the running out of money is a, there's lots of different, exactly, I was going to say, in this climate of everything that globally we've all been through, keep the lights on money is a very real thing that a lot of founders are going through. And yeah, you do get to see kind of where your investors are at. And that's maybe where, going back to that earlier question, where the relationships come in. Of like, hey, I've seen you go through this journey of trying different things, seeing what's working, seeing what's not. And that's maybe where that difference between investors that you have a more advisory relationship with than someone who just wrote a check and is a silent investor makes a difference. So I love that you kind of crystallize that into like things to think about if someone's listening to this and saying, okay, well, who am I looking for and what am I looking for in an investor? But can you go further on that? Like, if you had to do a bullet point, here's the things that I'm looking for in an investor I've never raised before. Can you talk about 2 things? The attributes of the investor, and where do you start looking?
Yeah, for sure. I think in terms of the attributes, I think it needs to be an investor that doesn't want to come and change what you're building and wants to essentially add value to it and enhance it, because in this given moment, my business model is my business model. Like, sure, I can tweak it, I can pivot it, I can do all of that. But if you tell me, hey, you know what, Trisha, like, my hybrid model right now is digital campaigns and then events. And the events are the same digital sponsors come and sponsor my events, and then I sell tickets, right? But if someone told me, and I just got this advice 3 weeks ago, so that's why I'm sharing it, someone told me I should stop doing events altogether. And I was like, but in this moment, in this climate, in this market, with where I'm at and what my clients need, I can't do that. My brand campaigns that I do, my clients genuinely want to meet people in person. So if I just took this one investor's advice said, hey, you know what? Maybe he's right. I'm just going to stop doing events. Like, I would literally have to shut down the company tomorrow. In this given moment, I have almost 17 events in the pipeline for the rest of the year, and that's keeping me going. Those are the lights that are being turned on. So I think it's just so important to have an investor who's not going to come in and just bulldoze your ideas and your pipeline and what's already working, right? But what I would rather the investor do and say, hey, you know what, Trish, maybe let's get rid of these 5 events, because let's be real, they're only going to be break even, or you may even lose money on these 5 events, and let's just focus on the profit-driven driving events, especially in this market. That's what I need an investor to do, is to come in and show me what could work better than what I'm already doing. And I think that just goes down to constructive feedback, right? And there's a big difference between, big difference between constructive criticism and constructive feedback. And what I'm looking for is constructive feedback. And you know what? It really sucks that people say, oh, like, don't take what investors are saying to heart. I'm sorry. I'm a human. What are you going to do? Like, what should I do? Rip my heart out? Like, I'm not going to, like, it does hurt and it does sting. And it's so hard to take an investor's criticism because they're not in the day-to-day. So in terms of attribute, for me, it's number 1. And I think I'm going to be so frank about that now when I'm speaking to more angel investors is, hey, this is my business model. I'm so here to hear your thoughts on it, but I'm not in a place to completely change it. I'm happy to continue evolving and pivoting, but there's no changing this model now. And so I think that that's important. And then number 2, outside of the attribute aspect, it's an investor who is willing to make warm intros. And I think that's what gets you to that next stage. And I think me and you have done that so well. It's like, I met this person, go meet them. You met this person, let me go meet them, you know? And I think that's the beauty of it, is building that ongoing relationship where I know that, sure, you may have a limited Rolodex, but you're willing to make warm intros when the right person comes your way. So that, for me, are the 2 big things I need personally right now.
I mean, those are 2, it doesn't need to be a long list, but it's a potent list. I think that's what's fantastic. So given that, I think it's now a good time to even talk about the fact that you are raising. And that, I think, is a question that a lot of founders go through. I mean, when in the initial stages, we've talked about kind of like, oh, okay, wasn't comfortable, got comfortable. I reached out to you and said, hey, I'd like to help you build. Maybe that doesn't happen with, and a lot of times it's more, you know, founders going outbound versus conversations coming inbound. What are some of the decision-making factors for you, and it's going to change with every founder and their business, what were some of the decision-making factors around, I think I'm ready to raise now, and raise a second time? And by the way, are you calling the first round pre-seed, or are you calling it family and friends, and are you calling this seed? Like, what, if you could also talk about that, and how are you sitting with that, and what are some decision-making factors, very broadly?
Yeah. A lot of semantics there in terms of terminology. Everyone does something different. So yeah, I think in this given moment, it's very safe to call it pre-seed, even though we were a revenue generating company, considering the round was such a small round, in comparison to what normal rounds look like, seed rounds look like. So for that instance, yes, it's safe to call the first round a pre-seed, and and yes, I am going in with this, finally calling it a seed round. Crossing fingers, it looks like a seed round. And so it's funnily enough, because Reshma is saying right here, please don't stop doing events. They help build community. Thank you, Reshma. I appreciate you.
Decision-making factors.
In terms of
in terms of decision-making factors, broadly, of course. I mean, I know it's going to vary founder to founder, but.
Of course. Yeah, so I think number 1 is your runway, right? Making sure that you have at least some runway. But I think right now, if you are raising capital with some runway in the bank, whether it's 12, 20 months, whatever that may be, start now. Because then before you get to a point where you're only left with 3 or 5 or 6 months, it just then is like the most worst, harrowing feeling ever of not having enough money in the bank. So I think for me right now, I'm in that perfect sweet spot of, if I wait any longer, I'm going to, kind of get that danger zone, and I don't want to get into that danger zone, and I want to feel comfortable raising, and I want to go into the room feeling really confident. And so that's why I'm raising right now, is because I still feel very confident about my runway. And because I feel confident about my runway, I know that when I raise, I'm going to raise with that same feeling of confidence and not desperation. And I think that the second for me personally, it was truly just getting over the PTSD of the no's. Like, the no's are hard no matter what, especially if you're so attached to the work that you're doing. Like, I am brown girl, brown girl is me. Like, there is nothing else, you know? And I was speaking to an amazing advisor / angel investor last night, and she literally looked at me in the face and she goes, I need you to go find you. Like, after this raise, go find out who you are. And I'm like, sure. But in this given moment, I don't know anything else. And sometimes it is frustrating because I'm like, I need an activity and a hobby and a life outside of brown girl. And it's so funny, like, when someone's like, oh, like, she is brown girl, I try to say I'm Trisha and brown girl is another
that you are building. And I mean, many an investor would agree with that, because as you build and scale this company, there is going to be a point where, you know, removing yourself as you and brown girl are one and the same might be a direction that the company goes. So being open to that is part of it.
I'm definitely open to it. I'm so ready for it. But I think for me, like, the biggest thing has been just the mindset shift of knowing that it's okay. I'm still going to hear no's. And I think because brown girl is so ingrained in the community, hearing no's from people that have watched your growth journey since day zero was such a hard hit to my stomach. Like, I took it like a dagger, because I was like, we promoted you. We were there for your first movie release. We were there for your first sound.
But how did you reframe it? Because you clearly reframed it in order to say, hey, I want to go at this again. And the whole dog and pony show of raising capital. And I mean, not to state the obvious for you, but raising capital in what is a tougher environment this year, because it's not the heyday of 2022 where money was just being, you know, thrown at someone saying hello.
Yeah, no, I get it. And the reframing for me right now is understanding that just because they support brown girl, just because they bought a ticket from brown girl, doesn't mean that they can write a check from brown girl. So not everybody supports you as an angel investor. And I think it's really important for me to separate the community with angel investors. And in the first round, I was bringing both of them together much, and that's my own doing. And I need to understand that the angel investor can be somebody that doesn't know me at all, but knows brown girl. And I think I'm so much more comfortable with that now, knowing that I would rather meet angel investors from Texas, you know, Toronto, Los Angeles, that don't know me as closely as maybe the tri-state community knows me, but they know brown girl. And that's all they need to know. And then when they get to know me, hopefully it's a cherry on the top of it all. But I think separating myself from the angel investors that I knew and the community that I know is what I need to focus on when I'm raising this time around. And so, speaking of focus, I actually wanted to bring this up because Aishwarya, who I mentioned to you, I'm excited to be working with Aishwarya, so I'm grateful that she's on this live listening in. But Aishwarya is an amazing consultant. She's helped other startups in the past. And so she literally asked, how do you cut out the noise, make sure you stick to your guns despite having investors or anyone else pulling you in every direction? And like, that's the number one biggest struggle.
And I think it's that
of not letting it ruin your day.
Being on the other side of the table as the investor, you know, a huge piece for an investor is not to bulldoze, but to also know that your feedback isn't just falling on deaf ears, that there is an open conversation happening where feedback is being received, especially when you're an investor that wants to add value and you're not a silent investor. That's the dance. And I think it's, to your point, how do they like to be given feedback to? And this is now person to person. This is relationships anywhere outside of even angel investing and being in business is, okay, well, how do I give feedback in a way where it actually lands? Because that's beneficial, and especially beneficial when, you know, an angel investor has skin in the game. So I think that's part of it. But there is another thing that I wanted to bring up as part of this kind of, now you're raising capital round 2. You talked about kind of letting go of taking it personally. What's changed in the storytelling? Because I remember, I mean, we've had these conversations kind of one-on-one offline about, you know, well, you're rewriting the deck. I mean, the conversation also of what brown girl has evolved. But what in the deck do you think is changing? And when we talk about the deck, we're talking about, I mean, everyone knows what a deck is, but, you know, your pitch deck. What do you think is changing in the storytelling from the first time you raised to now?
Oh my gosh, so much. I'm so excited for this new deck. I really am, because I wasn't excited about the first one because I was just so flustered for the first one. I just felt like the first one would never be enough. And that's how I felt the entire time, that this deck is not enough. And I don't know if it ever became enough. So now I am very ready to like truly fill that gap of feeling that the company I'm building, it's enough. And I don't care what anyone is saying. I don't care what they want to compare me to. And I think that's what I was stuck into last time around. Stuck in the comparison game. And I wanted to get out of it, but I couldn't. So I'm so excited to build a deck that truly showcases Brown Girl as two things. One, we have officially proved that we're a multi-generational brand. Gen X are the folks that are mostly my sponsors. They're my angel investors. The Gen X community needs us because they have kids that look to us. So that's why the Gen X community needs us, and they're the ones with the deep pockets. The millennial community, that's, of course, the millennials they've been our largest community from day one. They're the ones that are coming to our events. They're doing the photo shoots. They're hanging out with us. They're coming to our parties. I need them to continue buying tickets. I need them to continue engaging with us on Instagram. And now some of us have moved on to TikTok. So I still need my millennials to hang out with us. They're the ones I'm hanging out with, essentially. And then Gen Z, all of a sudden, in the last year and a half, I've realized I'm hanging out with so many 20-year-olds. Every other person I'm hanging out with is 22, 23, 24. I am officially 10 years older than them. And it took me a while to realize, wait a minute, this is Gen Z that I'm talking to. Like my my Gen Z friend, I was with her in Paris. She just taught me the Gen Z selfie last week in Paris. I've been using it every day. I did it 15 times last night. You'll see it on my Insta story. The Gen Z selfie when you flip the phone. I had no idea what that was. But I didn't realize that Gen Z need us. They need us for two reasons. One, the Gen Z community needs us because they already feel represented. Right. They just want to do it better. Right. And then there is the other flip side of the Gen Z community that still needs more. And that's cool too, because representation is a journey, and it's not like one day we've seen Never Have I Ever, and then that's it. Like, we're all Davies. We still need 100 Davies to represent us. So Gen Z is still very much on that path of, hey, I respect what you're doing, but I want to do more, and I want to do it better.
And,
so
where is the platform to do that?
That's why I feel hopefully Brown Girl. And so I think that now I can really showcase Brown Girl Magazine as a multi-generational platform. And number two, I think finally I can say with so much more confidence is I see this as a timeless company. This company can truly be timeless because we can be adept at a tech event, at a lifestyle event, at a fashion event, at an activism event, and we can be a platform for anybody and everyone. And also, I think I'm so much more confident about Brown Girl being able to attach itself to the mainstream market, which I just didn't see as clearly before. I never thought that Brown Girl could do a Diwali campaign for Nordstrom. Never in a million years did I think that Nordstrom would care to do a Diwali campaign with us, but they did. And when I called Nordstrom and I said, hey, maybe we should include other people. And they were like, no, we just want to talk to you. Like, don't include 10 people into this. And I was like, oh, really? Like, Brown Girl's enough? Like, I'm enough? So I think realizing that I'm enough is really the mindset that I'm going into with this round, which I didn't have before. So it truly is a mindset shift that has also allowed me to grow my revenue.
This conversation and this journey that I've been privy to on the investor side of things, I think what has been really great is for me as my first angel investment, really understanding what it is a founder needs from an investor. And I mean, we talked about it. Sure, for me, connecting people is like what I would do, till my last breath. But it's my favorite thing in life. But to really crystallize it, that is an important piece of it. But I think the thing that I realized along this way is allowing the founder to evolve and being in it for the long game, being in it for, not the quick, dirty exit, being in it not for like the equivalent one night stand of angel investing, but being in it for, as they say, kind of that the sweet spot is like the 8 to 10 year mark from when you wrote your first check. So that kind of mentality of, hey, let's kind of pivot and flow with the founder, with the company, I think is part of my learning, especially that being my first check. We didn't cover, and I think it's a whole other conversation, and maybe we won't get to it in this, about the mechanics of like a safe. And there's questions that I'm sure founders usually have of like, okay, even if it's a family member that wants to write a check, and how that can look, and should that be just a, hey, they just wrote me a check and cool, or how that conversation goes between, okay, like, and I know this from what you said earlier, that there are investors who will come in and say, I'm just making this up, 60% of the company. Well, hopefully no one does that, but 60% of the company. And how it is that you work through the safe and things like that, I think is another conversation for another day. But is that an area that you feel a little bit more adept in going into this round?
Oh, for sure. And I definitely want to say that, like, now it's so much easier to access that information. There's so many incubators that have actually laid it out for themselves. And the best place to start is Y Combinator. Y Combinator is the reason that we all get to use safes. And safes just, it's literally that. And I remember we had this discussion. The safe keeps you safe, and the safe keeps me safe.
We're now doing cheesy investing humor. That's us.
But it's true. Like, that's what a safe is. And that's what my husband told me. So I'm just passing along the information. But no, I went and Googled it too. So there's so much more accessibility on information now. So I think if someone just even typed in Angel Investing 101, like, you'll learn so much. And I will keep going back to learn all the time. Like, I know the difference between, top line and bottom line revenue. Like, there's so many like nuanced terms, right? I know the terms, but I'll continue to Google them all the time. Like, just the other day, I was re-Googling top line and bottom line. I don't need to do that. I know the difference, but I did it anyways. Like, I will literally keep Googling and listening to other people and podcasts and other reference points, even if I know them. And I think that that's something that every founder needs to do, is even if you know, learn it again, because you'll probably learn something that you didn't last time. And I think asking questions, like, I will never forget it. And Deepa is here too. Deepa's been a long-time investor. I will never forget. She pulled me aside and she's like, Trisha, it's not evaluation, it's valuation. And I was, because I kept saying, oh yeah, my evaluation. And she's like, no, it's just your valuation. Like, come on. Like, it was little itty-bitty things like that, but it goes such a long way. And so I think just being open to learning and asking and doing the work of Googling and listening is on you. So I'm going to keep doing that forever.
Which I should maybe add a plug for how Brown Girl Angels even came to be. It's a lot of it was this collective that I'm building with some other angel investors that will soon be announced. Was prompted by conversations that we had about you saying, hey, like, there's a need for this. There's a need for a space where other South Asians and the South Asian community, not exclusively, but a space where we feel we can learn and grow together on two fronts. One, as founders who are looking for information on, hey, what is angel investing? And I'd like to hear from relatable faces and relatable journeys. And then part two, women who want to invest, who have investable income, and they would want to do it and give it back as, an impact investment, meaning something that matters to them on a personal level, or generally just want to build wealth. And so, a huge part of Brown Girl Angels starting was definitely prompted by, this investment is really actually what started the journey. But then beyond that, conversations you and I have had about, like, hey, go and build this.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you are, and it's manifested so beautifully into this. And you get to come on weekly to speak to other founders and investors, and that's literally what you were craving to do. And sure, Brown Girl has been a cool jump off, but what you're building now is way more bigger and way more important than that. So kudos, because I think there's so many women and people, South Asian people, that have deep pockets, but they're not willing to extend also beyond that deep pocket, right? And that's what you're willing to do. You're willing to actually educate and support and connect folks, and sometimes that goes beyond $1. And so I think that if there are angel investors that are inspired by you and perhaps don't have enough investable income right now, that's okay. Open up your Rolodex and still make those introductions and still say, hey, I'm an aspiring angel investor and I'm here to help and consult and support you, even if I can't write big checks. And I have quite a few of those folks on my cap table. They came in with the most minimum size check possible, but I wanted them on board because I felt that I could call them if and when I needed them, even though they didn't have deep pockets. So I think that you can still be an aspiring angel investor if you do just that, which is open up your heart before you open up your wallet.
And prove value. I mean, it goes back to kind of what you were saying. Show value so that the founder feels like, hey, this is somebody I want along the journey with me, along this long journey of however long that may be. I want to make sure I respect the time that you have, most probably, because you have, like you said, 17 events coming up. Oh my God. As you know, events is something that you're a pro at, and that I'm happy you're a pro, because it's not my favorite thing to do. So lots to do. But let's round this off by what I think we've alluded to a couple of times. You're currently raising. Sum it up with raising, because one of the things I do want to actually say, you're raising, and you've talked about kind of like, hey, want to do it ahead of time before cash runs out. But there's also definitely other reasons people do it. And, you know, we tangented before touching upon that, which is specific things that your goals you have that you want to achieve in the company. So sum it up about you're raising right now. What are you raising for? And, you know, not getting into the valuations and amounts and all that stuff. People can DM you and find you if they're interested. But what would you like to see come out of this, and what are the kinds of people you're looking for on the cap table? In a perfect world, how would this all play out?
For sure. No, I appreciate that so much. I am finally raising to hire full time, and that's something that I wasn't in a position to do in my first round. But Brown Girl not having a full time team, I think, is one of our biggest deterrents for large scale scalability, essentially. And so I want to hire 3 key folks at Brown Girl that helps us with sales, marketing, and events. Those are the 3 biggest revenue drivers as well. So each role that I hire for will truly tie back to a pillar behind the scenes of what actually helps keeps the lights on. So I'm finally raising a seed round to do just that, to have 3 people on my side that I can really count on and support, and still grow with the freelance community, because that community, the side hustle slashy community, is why Brown Girl continues to stand. So we'll still have those for sure. And I think that the ideal angel investor right now is truly someone who wants to invest in exactly what you said, in a company that makes them feel good, a company that makes them feel connected, a company that truly adds impact and value to our world. That's really what Brown Girl is doing. And I was always timid and scared to say that we are essentially making the world a better place, but I can say that now, kind of, sort of.
You can definitively say that, because I think there'll be plenty of people that would raise their hand and say, you already have.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. So that's the ideal investor who really believes in the community that we're building and knows that this community goes way beyond just the South Asian community. And that's like number 1, is for every investor to know that, sure, we may be niche, but that niche is still monetizable. Big. And now, and very monetizable.
Great.
Exactly.
And then
so
there is the print mag coming along as well. I think that's something that you've announced as well. So I'm sure that's something as part of the scale that people can look forward to. And I think that was a fantastic summary. And I mean, I said this to you many times offline, and I say it again. Thank you for believing in me and us kind of coming together on this journey and being each other's first in investments and first in all things going forward. So thank you.
We're just really good at popping that cherry, whatever.
I'm like, do I say it? The other thing I was thinking it.
I
momentarily stepped off screen, because the other thing that I will say I've been thinking about the entire time, I was like, she's got such a great lip color going on for her. I'm like, I have my Clee lip balm here, which I'm now obsessed with, especially the rose. And I'm like, is it odd if I literally just, like, you know, and it's a South Asian owned brand. So shout out to Arthi. Like, I swear by this, wearing lip tinted kajal. I looked down and I was like, I did not plan this. but support South Asian brands by buying their products.
You didn't plan this.
So.
Exactly, you didn't plan this. Our community is just truly growing. And so honestly, hopefully Aarti gets to listen to this, but shout out to me. She's an angel investor that you connected me to, so it really, oh my God, Aarti.
Okay.
Here. Hi, Aarti.
Yeah.
That is kind of wild that like so many people have popped up into this live and we were referencing to them, so that's kind of crazy. Aarti, come to New York.
Thank you.
Anyways.
This
Aarti,
was a great convo.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Have a good rest of the day. Bye.
Yeah.